Brand nerds, brand nerds, brand nerds. You already know what it is. Back at you, Brands, Beats, and Bytes podcast. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, peeps, this is a show that's going to be close, near, and dear to my heart. And let me explain why. First, our guest, Larry, that we're about to formally introduce, which you do such a wonderful job of, is from an industry that we adore, and that is the non-alcoholic beverage industry. This is a beverage vet, and we love talking shop with beverage people. Now, most unfortunately, this gentleman happens to come from a competitive beverage from when we did our thing. But in the business, we all respect one another, and the competition made us better. That's first. Second, good people know good people. This next guest hired someone that worked very closely with me when I was back at Coca-Cola. That'll come up a little later. But this guy that Larry will mention is one of the smartest people that I've ever worked with and made a significant impact back in Coke land. He also made a significant impact in the land that you're going to hear our guest talk about here in a moment. Really good person. So this person is also a good person. And finally, something I did not know, Larry, our next guest is one of my homeboys.
Yep.
He hails from the great state of Michigan. Now, we're on, again, slightly different sides of the fence, okay? This is a Spartan, okay? Well, I'm over here with Go Blue. I did not attend the University of Michigan, but I root for the University of Michigan. So we're on a slightly different sides of the fence, but it's my homeboy. Brand nerds, get ready for an awesome show dripping with knowledge. LT, who we have in the building today?
DC, great setup. We have Jim Trebilcock in the house today. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. I'm
Jim,
looking forward to the discussion.
Oh, we are as well. So, Jim, we have to give our brand nerds like the real sense of who we have in the building, as we say. So, brand nerds, we are coming to you today with someone who steadily rose through the ranks as an innovative marketer, driving great results both in growing revenue and share with big brands. After becoming an accomplished CMO, he graduated to an even higher executive position. Let's walk you through Jim's fantastic background. And to say that Jim is a Michigan State Spartan, as DC alluded to, is a huge understatement. Jim actually grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, and his childhood home is actually across the street from one of the biggest Michigan State freshman dorms. For college, Jim actually crosses the street and attends Michigan State University. And while in school, his brother is working at a Coca-Cola bottler, and Jim gets a job as a bottle sorter and other odds and ends, including driving a bottling truck 50 miles after just learning to drive a manual transmission in the parking lot. This is a bit of a precursor for Jim, and you will soon learn why. Jim
Hey, Larry, I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt you for just a second?
Please.
I'm sorry, I never do this, Larry. But Jim, I have to say this to the brand nerds. Back in the day, brand nerds, and dare I say, even today, if you could, the best way to learn any business is from the ground up. So if you are a bottle sorter, this was a real job, brand nerds. I know you don't believe that. A bottle sorter was a real job. Driving around in a manual car, doing stuff in the bottling, that's a real thing. And also, brand nerds, there is something that you probably have heard about in marketing, particularly in the CPG world, where you go facings. Brand nerds, back in Jim's time and Larry's time and my time, you would not dare leave a store unless every single product was faced
out.
Straight.
Faced
right.
out.
Like in 10 degrees one way was unacceptable. And even the cans behind the first one. So it's not like the first one was straight up and then you could do 30 degrees. Every single can had to be faced straight up. So I just want to say this, brand nerds, the level of dedication, discipline, and expertise that you learn at that level that you can apply at the highest level, it never goes out of style. I just need to say that. I'm sorry, Larry, go ahead.
No, that's so, D. I'm so glad you said that. So you interjected at a perfect time. So Jim ends up earning his undergrad degree and his MBA both in marketing at Michigan State. So after MBA graduation, Jim's first job is a marketing assistant for General Mills in the Big G division. As we have mentioned many times on this podcast, General Mills is one of those great CPG companies that is truly a wonderful place for any marketer to start a career. After cutting his teeth at General Mills, Jim then joins Coca-Cola as a franchise salesperson and is soon hired away by one of the largest bottlers in the Coke system, Consolidated, in their field marketing organization. All right. So Jim then gets a really cool call to join 7-Up in their national headquarters to be the Cherry 7-Up brand manager. Little did Jim know, on the day he joins the company, he would spend about the next 35 years achieving great success and navigating 5 different corporate ownership changes.
Wow.
After Cherry 7-Up, he is asked to run an important line extension for the brand at the time called 7-Up Gold, and soon after he is promoted to director of marketing for the entire 7-Up brand. As the 7-Up and Dr. Pepper portfolios come together more, Jim earns another promotion, becoming VP for IBC Root Beer. After success with IBC, Jim then moves over to he moves up the ladder even more, becoming SVP of marketing, responsible for 7-Up and Dr. Pepper brand and strategic marketing. He holds this position for 6 years, where he and his team have a $120 million plus annual marketing budget, and they are responsible for 5-year category growth of 3% and 5-year profit category growth of 9.8%, which in this uber competitive soft drink category is very impressive. Next, Cadbury Schweppes comes in as a new corporate overlord. For the next 6 years, Jim is the SVP of marketing for Cadbury Schweppes Americas, assuming responsibility for the P&L and brand marketing for all carbonated brands, as well as carbonated innovation and brand planning for this $5.4 billion business unit, of producing $700 million in operating profit with a $280 million annual marketing spend. All right. So as you can see, Jim is continuing to move up the ladder. Now another new corporate purchase happens, with Jim now working for the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group. And with this change, Jim earns the big promotion to the CMO seat. As CMO, Jim is responsible for brand marketing, marketing services, innovation, content, shopper marketing, and planning for the $6.4 billion business unit with over $1.2 billion in operating income. Among many highlights for Dr. Pepper, he initiates and negotiates the first corporate sponsorship for the college football playoff, which serves as a major growth engine in ultimately helping grow the Dr. Pepper brand to its current status as the #2 brand in the market ahead of Pepsi. Of course, as DC alluded to, our good friend Andrew Springate, who's also been a former guest on Brands, Beats, and Bytes, and many others at Dr. Pepper have been a big part of the success too. Another great highlight for Jim in this position, as digital marketing is becoming a hugely important component of the marketing mix, Jim establishes the digital social media and e-commerce functions and becomes a beta site and strategic partner with Oracle, Google, and Facebook. So now, after 7 really successful years as CMO, Jim earns another big promotion, where he is appointed to the newly created position of Chief Concentrate and International Officer for Keurig Dr. Pepper, where he initiates and leads the integration and transformation of the Canadian hot and cold beverage business, a new licensing and bottler consolidation strategy, all while achieving record sales and profit for the business in Canada, Mexico, and the United States. This is truly a full circle moment for the guy who used to be the bottle sorter, as we said, at a Coke bottle in Michigan. In 2022, Jim leaves Keurig Dr. Pepper and continues to do a lot in both business and community. Highlights include president of the Dallas Cup International Soccer Tournament, helping them significantly grow actually double ticket and sponsorship revenue. And the tournament now generates more than $40 million in annual economic value to North Texas. He's also a senior advisor for the multicultural entertainment and marketing agency Loud and Live, advisor to the Evergreen Trading Company, is on board of the directors for the international nonprofit Christian Oral Bible Translation Organization Spoken, and he's working with startup alkaline water brand Joby. We're really looking forward to this one, brand nerds. Welcome to Brands, Beats, and Bytes, Jim Trebilcock.
Thank you. That was quite an introduction. I feel really old after all of that.
Well, you
Or
may feel
worn
old.
out, one of the two.
You should also feel very accomplished after all of that.
It's been a good ride.
Been a nice ride, Jim. Been a nice ride. Typically, Jim, in this next section, which we call Get Comfy, there will be one question that I will ask our guest.
Yeah.
I've got more than one for you. I've got two. I've got
All
two.
right.
But
Yeah.
before getting into the two questions, I want to give you a bit more of your flowers, which is what Larry was doing with your introduction, Jim. I believe that what you initiated and what continues today in the partnership between Dr. Pepper and college football is the best sports marketing activation
Wow.
in the last several decades, and I think, one of the best ever. And I'll tell you, Jim, what Larry and I use as a criterion for like truly great strategy-based campaigns. Can the blueprint survive the people that started it? And in your case, Jim, that has been absolutely the fact. I actually texted Ryan Lair. He
Oh,
is
yeah.
the chief creative officer at Deutsch. I
Know him
texted
well.
him. Yep. What'd you say, Jim?
I said I know him well.
Know him well. Yeah, I know you do. I texted Ryan after I saw one of the latest editions of Fansville, and it was a whole take on a fan of Dr. Pepper State, if you
Yeah.
will, and who is now they're wondering, who's this Western university that you are now sort of cozying up to, as if he's tipping out on State.
Yeah.
Hilarious, Jim. Larry, brand nerds, I'm falling out of the bed laughing at this. I texted Ryan and said, hey, man, great,
Yeah.
great execution and campaign. So I want to give you your flowers, Ryan his flowers, and Andrew Springate, Gate Baby, his
Yeah.
flowers.
No, listen, this thing started back in 1992. I inherited a program, but it was only with the SEC. And
Ah,
so when we started to expand it to the Big Ten, because I wanted to get Michigan State involved.
Of
But
course.
after that, shortly after that, when I became CMO, the CFP, there were conversations around the CFP happening, and I was scared we were going to lose it because everybody wanted to be a part of it.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went around and I met with every commissioner. I had breakfast, I had dinner, I had lunch,
Mm,
and I told them that we will be their best partner, that we're going to make this thing work not only for us, but we will make you a success as a result. We did the same thing with ESPN, which had the rights, and that solidified the first tranche of getting in and being the first sponsor. I told them, I said, I want to be number one. I didn't realize how much it was going to cost.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the first one.
Brand nerds, for those of you who are not sports fan, CFP is college football playoffs. And this is where the top teams at the end of the year, college football teams across the country, assemble to play. And back then there was not a CFP playoff where they were like one team beats another until you get to national championship. It was organized differently, but it was still the penultimate of who would end up being crowned at the end of the year the national championship in college football. Jim did that. Larry, did you have anything to add to this before I get into my two questions to Jim? I just want to give him his flowers.
No, just one quick thing. We also have to mention our great friend Tim Spengler, who's also a connection with all of this stuff. But anyway, that's the only out
Yes.
I have.
Thank you,
He
Spangler.
he and his team helped negotiate the deal. Big
That's
time.
why I brought it up.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing that up, Larry. Okay, first question. This was not my original question, but after listening to your introduction and reading it, Jim, you survived many different corporate mergers, takeovers, acquisitions, etc., and you were at a senior level in marketing. You know, Jim, the CMOs get shot often and
Yeah.
early. How did you survive and thrive in the midst of all of these different corporate owners?
Well, a little bit of luck, a little bit of talent,
Mm-hmm.
and having a great mentor.
Mm.
The guy who really helped develop me as a leader, not a marketer per se, but a leader and a
Mm-hmm.
businessman, a guy by the name of Mike McGrath,
Okay.
kept rising as well in the organization.
Ah.
And every time he moved, I moved up in the organization and eventually took over more. Now, when we split off from Cadbury,
Yep.
there was a 4-year period of time I interviewed for the CMO role and didn't get it. Now, I had a choice to leave at that point
Mm-hmm.
and go someplace else
Mm-hmm.
or stay and run and report into somebody else who's CMO coming in from the outside, whose name I will not mention.
Mm-hmm.
But I stuck it out. And then
Mm.
another guy came in by the name of Larry Young as our CEO, and he let go that CMO and hired me and asked me to put together a plan for the organization over the weekend. And Monday morning, I was announced as the CMO.
Wow.
But it took a little bit of luck, a lot of learning along the way. And then, for me anyway, it was about having people that believed in me
Mm-hmm.
and continued to support me throughout.
Mm.
And Larry
Mm.
Young just rolled off the Keurig Dr. Pepper board and is a tremendous businessman and another guy who grew up on a route truck and became CEO of, one of the big three. So,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
he had 50 years in the business because he started
50.
at 16.
Ah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Now I'm going to get Larry. Any response to Jim on that before I get to the question? All right, Jim. I've never talked with someone like you in my entire business life, and I've been waiting, and this is the moment.
Okay.
Um, I've talked with many people in the beverage business who have worked on the Sprite brand and their experiences after working on the Sprite brand. But few of them worked on the Sprite brand when it was a laggard with I Like the Sprite in You, and also after the repositioning. Not that many
Yeah.
people have been on both sides of that.
No.
I've talked with people at 7 Up who have been on the side when 7 Up was the behemoth in this country in the lemon line segment, but not on the other side when it started to lose its footing.
We
You
may
are
have to
the
do another, we may have to do another podcast on this because there's a lot of material.
okay. All right. Well, give us the Twitter version because
Yeah.
here I am. I'm a young pup working on the Sprite brand, both pre Obey Your Thirst and post Obey Your Thirst. You
All
are a
right.
young
So,
pup. You're leading. You're in a higher
yeah.
position than me. I'm senior brand manager. You're leading this. From your view, what happened? Because
Yeah.
7 Up was like the big dog.
Yeah. So it really is. I actually studied 7 Up. It was a Harvard business case study when I was going to MBA school.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it was when Miller owned 7 Up.
Okay.
Ah,
And
yeah, that's
that's
right.
that
That's right.
when Miller owned 7 Up, that's when it started to really begin to have its challenges because
Okay.
they did not understand soft drinks, and it's completely different than the beer.
Yep.
These are the same guys that made the bottlers drop RC and take on like cola.
Ah,
Light cola was differentiated because it was not caffeinated. And within 30 days, Coke and Pepsi had introduced caffeine-free Coke and caffeine-free Pepsi. So differentiation went out the door. Anyway,
woo.
that's a whole nother story. But
Right.
for context, 7 Up was the lemon lime in McDonald's early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was sold in all three systems. There were Coke bottlers that sold
Hmm.
7 Up.
Oh yeah.
There were Pepsi bottlers that sold 7 Up. There were independent bottlers
Right.
and a great product. But not without a lot of attention. The game changer to me is when Coke woke up and said, we're gonna use our leverage with McDonald's, and we're gonna take 7 Up out, and we're gonna put Sprite into McDonald's. And
Mm.
overnight, McDonald's Sprite became, at the time, the only lemon lime, and still the only lemon lime in national distribution at McDonald's. It was instant sampling, it was
Mhm.
instant credibility.
Mhm.
It got, and it was a huge energy. The other thing, and this is where I think DC and I will probably start sparring, is the marketing team, I think to this day, and I'm glad I see they've kind of come back to it. But they started a run, and you'll have to fill in the exact dates here, DC, but with the Obey the Thirst campaign,
Mhm.
which largely connected on a cultural level. It
Yes.
connected on like, yeah, okay, I got it. It's about me.
Yep.
And they rode that campaign and they used great stars,
Yep.
mostly African American,
Correct.
and which nobody had done to that point
Mhm.
in the industry, right?
Yep.
So they had created differentiation. They had a meaningful campaign, and then they spent the hell out of it. They got
That's
the
right.
bottlers all fired up about it,
Yep.
and they
Yep.
executed in the marketplace. And were then for the next, I don't know what it was, 10, 15 years, they did not move off that play. So there was a consistency to what they did, right? Brilliant.
Correct. That is
It
correct.
caused me so much sleeplessness, I can't tell you.
Sorry, Jim.
Because listen, this is true. I came in on the Cherry 7 Up brand manager. The year it was product of the year. A lot of energy. We were good. It was over 200 million cases of the trademark at that point.
Hmm.
I think it's below 100 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, I think I mentioned this to you, Larry, yesterday. I wrote this to the Linda Ronstadt song "Tracks of My Tears" because I cry every time I think about all of the things that happened over from 1985 to 2005 to ruin. It had nothing to do with marketing, but
Yeah.
ruin the brand,
Mm,
which was getting the Pepsi bottlers deciding, first of all, getting dropped in all the Coke bottlers. We had to
Yeah.
right.
find distribution for what was the number 3 soft drink in the industry. Think about that.
Correct. That was number three.
You
That's correct.
number 3, you
That's
had
right.
to go find distribution. And some of these places there were more goats than people. And so there wasn't like a natural distribution arm there.
Right.
Well, then we got dropped there. Then Pepsi, the first time, got wind of it, and they've introduced, I don't know, 5, 6 lemon limes. It's a joke.
At
Uh,
least
It's still a joke.
yeah, no, they still haven't figured it out.
they
And
Nope.
still
they
the
own
latest is
7 Up
starry.
internationally. They own 7 Up internationally, but
That's
they
right.
Yeah.
dropped us or forced people to drop us. So we lost distribution again. And then Indra Nooyi in, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s, they finally said, if you're a Pepsi bottler, you get rid of this brand. And they did it. And it was the final group of bottlers that
Mm.
in the Pepsi system that were forced to
Mm.
drop 7 Up. And
Mm.
and when you have a brand that is dependent on a DSD delivery system,
Oh, yeah.
and that's going into every store, every channel,
Mhm.
and you get dropped, and you have to, and in some cases we had to recreate a distribution system, and
Mm.
Wow.
like with a share that was probably less than 5. There's no
Mm.
economies of scale,
Mm.
nothing. So you put all that together on the operations side, it killed the brand. On the marketing side, we have this brand over here called Sprite just hammering us, right? Like a juggernaut, right? Consistent, the whole thing. And the products are pretty close to being equal.
They
Okay.
Yes, they
are.
There's
are.
not a lot of
No.
differentiating It's not like Dr. Pepper where it's completely
Right.
differentiated.
No.
So your ability to do that and you create differentiation, that was the whole charge, for us in marketing was to try to figure out differentiation. Well,
Right.
guess what? There was a big problem. The consumer, our consumer base, and this is another brilliant move by Sprite. They got at the time that I don't even think we called them anything, but they got the under 35 group.
Yeah.
All our consumers, I kept saying, all our consumers are going to die before I leave this company because it was all old and it was seen as a medicinal brand. It was what I took when I was sick. And we called it the Bob factors: bland, old, boring. And
Mm.
we couldn't figure out. And talk about failure. We couldn't figure out, and we didn't. Then the money thing, we didn't have the resources to be able to go and really build the brand back. And it's a great trademark, a lot of heritage,
Yes.
but it's still 7 Up and a great, but not great enough. And
Mm.
Sprite, I don't know who was doing it at the time, but they kind of went away from Obey Your Thirst for 3 or 4 years, and
Longer, Jim. They were
is that
they
right?
went away from it for longer. Yes.
Yeah, well, they're back now and they're doing
Yes.
the only other brand that I can think of, which was also just accelerating at the time, that was very consistent and did the same thing, and that was Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. Yep. Mountain
And
Yeah.
Dew.
that was a big competitor
Yep.
with Dr. Pepper because we were both caffeinated, we
Yep.
were both differentiated in the flavor, but they did a great job.
They
And
did.
then, sometimes marketers get full of themselves.
Hmm.
And so they think they're better than they are. They're going to recreate a brand. They're going to redo the graphics. They're going to over innovate on flavors and all this stuff. And it's like, guys, you had a thing that was just cranking, and
Mm.
it's been declining, and it's a shame. But sometimes marketers get so full of themselves that I've got to do something, and
Mhm.
rather than just ramming it like obey your thirst. So anyway, that's it's a long answer to the story, but it really should be two-sided case study of Sprite and
Mhm.
what Coke did and what we did at 7 Up. It would be amazing just to look at that because it's all about developing differentiation, investment, and then connecting all the dots from the brand down to what happens in a convenience store.
Well said, Jim. Larry, anything to add before I transition us to the next section?
Yeah, I have something to add quick. Two quick things. Jim, it's so great that you and DC had the chance to do this because you're looking across at the person who really was the engine behind Obey Your Thirst and everything that happened there. So and
Well, brilliant. That's all I
yeah,
can
and
say.
so that's one thing. The other thing I'm struck with as Jim talked about that, perhaps one of the most awful things that Jim inherited that inevitably was a big cause for the a 7 Up decline was I read this, and Jim, please confirm this, that Philip Morris, who owned Miller, as you said, when they sold 7 Up, they sold the domestic rights separately to the international rights. So they sold the international rights to
Well,
Pepsi, and then the domestic rights went opposite. As soon as you split that, inherently you're going to
yeah,
have two different, parents
yeah.
who are divorced and not
Well,
together. So how
what
could they
happened
manage the
was
brand, right?
what happened was in 1986. Philip Morris wanted to sell the brand. Pepsi actually tried to buy the whole thing. And at the same time, Coke wanted to buy Dr. Pepper.
Oh,
Of course.
wow.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
And the FTC stood in and said, no way on either one.
Wow.
And
Mm.
as a result of that, the private equity group, Hicks and Haas, came in, bought Dr. Pepper and combined it with 7 Up, but they only bought it for the US. And
The
so
7 Up for
Pepsi, yeah,
US.
and
Yes.
Pepsi wanted it because they were trying to compete with
Right.
Coke internationally.
Right.
For the first 2 or 3 years, we used to meet and regularly meet and try to develop joint marketing plans with 7-Up International and PepsiCo.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided that we didn't know what the hell we were doing and that they were better than us. And they went
Mm.
off and did their thing. Now, 7-Up in Canada is different than it is in Europe, is different than it is, different marketing campaigns, different product. So I don't, but anyway, that's how it all kind of came to be. But it was another complicating factor.
Jim,
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
what a history lesson. Before we move on, I'll just say this. While we in Sprite world were maybe the bane of your existence for 7-Up, brand nerds, we want you to know that Dr. Pepper is now the #2 brand, non-alcoholic beverage in this country, second only to Coca-Cola. And the #3 brand is Sprite, off by a couple of tenths of share
Yeah.
points. And the bridge between the two is someone that Jim hired, which Larry referenced, Andrew Springate, who
Yep.
was the CMO later at the I think at that point Dr. Pepper Keurig is what
Yeah.
it was called,
Yeah.
called at that point.
He was my lead marketer. And then when I moved into my final role, he became the CMO. And
He
it was
became the
CMO up
CMO.
until about a couple months ago. So
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jim. Andrew Springate, who I call affectionately Gate Baby, also worked on the Sprite brand. So we like to claim, Jim, that he took some of his best learning from the Sprite brand and helped to
yeah.
apply it to the Dr. Pepper brand. That's a great story. All right, Jim, we're
Yeah.
going to the next section. It is called 5 questions. Larry and I go back and forth on our questions until we arrive at 5. I begin. What was the first branding experience that you can recall? Let's go back, Jim.
All right. This was a tough one to
Okay,
think
are you
about.
ready to answer? All right, go ahead.
I
Go,
am.
go,
I
go,
am.
go.
I thought about it, and not because I was in the industry, but I think the brand and the campaign that I remembered the most was when I was 11. Yeah, I believe it was 11, 10 or 11, one of the two. But it was the Coke Hilltop campaign.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
And it was one of the first examples of connecting to a cultural moment, which was the Vietnam War and all of the race issues that happened in the late 60s, and connecting in a way that made people feel better about themselves and about the brand. And it needed to be Coke needed to be part of your family. And
Mm.
that to me was, when I was just trying to think of, I mean, there's been a lot of great campaigns, but that particular it was one of the first times I can remember a brand seizing on cultural relevancy, and they did it brilliantly.
ooh, I love this, D. What's your response?
Now you go, Larry. You go. I'm absorbing this.
So I too uh, was incredibly brought in by that campaign. And as Jim alluded to, Coke, the context of what was going on, not only in the US, but the world. There was
Yes.
turmoil throughout the world.
Yeah.
And the whole essence of bringing people together, I think people were starved for that. And to be on a hilltop with noticeably people from the whole world
Yeah.
was incredibly moving. And brand nerds, the 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 jingle in air quotes behind it, I like to teach the world to sing was the jingle that actually became a hit on the Billboard charts. That's
Yes.
how much that was part of what Jim alluded to as the cultural zeitgeist of the time. And so it made you feel, again, the feels, D, right? We talk about the feels a lot, Jim. The best marketing is
Yeah.
about the feels. And it elevated the connection between what sugar water to something that was grandiose and special, especially for young people. It wasn't Bob, it was the opposite of Bob, right? Which was
Right.
right,
No, it
bland,
was.
old, and boring. And so for me and everything you said, that for me too was one of the things where I actually noticed, wow, advertising's pretty cool. And that was an impetus for me to get into this business.
It
So
was so cool at the time to
yeah,
have a helicopter shooting up on a mountaintop with all these people of different races and ethnicities, colors, the whole thing. And it was like, whoa.
yep,
And I think of the emotional needs and
Yeah.
the physical need, right? The
yep,
Yeah.
product kind of delivers that, but there's an emotional component. You better win on at least one of those. But they
Yeah.
hit it out of the park on both.
yep.
Uh, Jim, what a great example. Brand nerds, for you all who are not familiar with it, go check it out. The commercial is called Hilltop, and Larry just mentioned the song as well. It was launched in July of 1971.
Okay.
July of 1971. Larry, you are right. The song did chart. The original song, which was called, uh, done by the Hilltop Singers. So these are the people that were, some of them in the ad, maybe some of them not, got to number 13. And then it was redone. This is Billboard's chart, number 13, pop charts. Then it was redone by a group called the New Seekers, and it went to number 7. So this was like a legitimate hit,
Oh,
a legitimate hit. Jim, you have now mentioned a couple of words twice. Once when describing what happened between Seven Up and Sprite,
yeah.
and then you mentioned Seven Mountain Dew. You mentioned this word as well. And then when you came back and talked about Hilltop and Coca-Cola, you mentioned these two things. These two. One word you've mentioned multiple times is differentiation and
Yeah.
how important that is. You've also mentioned the words culturally relevant multiple times. And Jim, one would expect to see someone like me on a podcast talking about cultural relevance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jim, one would not expect someone looking like you on a podcast talking.
Well,
And by the way, for the brand nerds who are not looking at this and you don't know me, okay, Jim and I are around the same age. I'm here on this screen with a bald head, a beard, a hoodie, and a scarf around my neck like an ascot. Jim, and I'm black. Jim is an Anglo brother with a quarter zip and a golf shirt on. Okay, I just want to
right.
explain, take the pictures of the brand nerds. Jim, how are you so into this cultural relevancy thing? What's up?
Well, it's a great question. I probably won't do it that good a justice, but um, I mentioned I always try to hire people that are smarter than me,
Mm-hmm.
like Springgate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But we had other people and Ryan Lair and the guys at the agency listening to people about cultural pieces
Mm-hmm.
and what's happening out there and learning about that is just really important. I have to do it today with the agency that I'm working with, Loud and Live. They're
Mm-hmm.
all about being in culture,
Mm.
and it's I don't have I've never you can ask my two sons. I'm not a hip guy at all.
Mm.
Like I'm the last on technology and whatever. But I always had an interest in learning and allowing people to go and do it and find out and take some risks in certain areas on being cultural because you're not going to make it every time you go do it. I mean, it's there is a hit or miss, but you really and you have to bring people in around you to make up for what you aren't. You know what I mean? I it's just really important that you surround yourself with people who can actually translate what's happening out in culture, and then be willing for me when I rose up to spend the money behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jim, I think you got two of the three exactly right. You're missing one that you did. So the
Yeah,
first one is hiring the people that know stuff you don't know.
yeah,
The third one is spending the money. but in the middle is letting them do what they do and
Oh,
getting the fuck out of the way. Excuse my
yes.
French. And Jim, that's what you did. So can you
Yeah.
tell us the name of the person that leads the agency that you just mentioned?
Yeah. His name is Nelson Albaredo, and he
Okay.
was actually my Hispanic agency lead on Dr. Pepper and helped us develop that brand and helped us build out shopper marketing. But they run an experiential and multicultural business out of Miami. They do terrific work. Most people wouldn't have heard of them, but they do work with Walmart, McDonald's, New Balance, uh, Boston Beer, General Mills. So they got credit. It's nice for me because as a retired marketer, I get in front of young marketers and talk to them about marketing again. It's really
Right.
fun.
Nice. Nice. All right, Larry, if you don't have anything more, next question. Great answer.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great stuff, Jim. So, Jim, who has had or is having the most influence on your career?
Yeah, I mentioned his name earlier, Mike McGrath. Uh, he, uh, he actually promoted me into this little marketing role. People thought I was a fool because I was vice president of marketing of IBC root beer, which was 4 million cases, and Welch's soft drinks, which we sold in the Coke system, uh,
Mhm.
not maybe 20 million cases. And in the scheme of things, these are like infinitesimal brands.
Right.
But he brought me in, he hired me. He was ex Procter and Gamble sales,
Mm,
wicked bright, and the best salesman I've ever met.
Mm,
mm,
And he taught me the Procter and Gamble way of selling, which is persuasive selling. And then he taught me how to coach and develop people. And he did it by, so at that age, I was 30. I become a new father. Uh, and I wasn't very good at conflict. And as a marketer or as a salesperson or a business person, you're dealing with conflict all the time. And if you can't handle it in the right way, you're not going to be very successful.
yep.
Well, he had kind of a sick sense of humor, but he would put me into positions that I really didn't want to be in and that were he knew were going to be cataclysmic. So, for instance, we were selling IBC root beer concentrate to a bottler, and he was the only bottler in St. Louis. And the guy reminded me of the Georgia Bulldog. He was that old, mean kind of bottler type. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like
yes.
Oh,
just
oh,
like a
we've
bar,
worked with many of them.
Yes.
he barks the minute you come in the door. Well, I had to go in and give him a 30% price increase on his concentrate.
Oh,
Oh,
So, right,
oh.
right. 30%. So I walk in there and I do this thing. And after a few F bombs and, you know, kicking me out of the office and all that, I called Mike up and he goes, "How'd it go?" And I said, "Well, he threw me out of the office." And he just started laughing. He said, "I knew it was going to happen." And then so he put me in a situation that was he knew we were going to lose, but he put me in a tough position to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah.
The other one he did is I had a guy working for me that was the son of the best friend of the CEO of Dr. Pepper at the time,
oh,
Ooh.
and he wasn't performing.
Uh-oh.
And I was told to take him on and try to coach him and whatever, and it just wasn't working. And I had to fire him. And it was the first time I'd ever fired anybody. And I'm telling you, I was like a nervous wreck. I was shaking, I was quivering, the whole thing. But I learned from him as we were coaching leading up to the event of letting him go. And he supported the decision,
Hmm.
even though he was going to take heat from his boss. But he taught me about how to have and have the conversation. He taught me about making it very uh, human and talked about being honest
Hmm.
but compassionate.
Hmm.
And I found that to work. I've had to do it a fair amount in my career, letting people go that either they weren't the right fit or they did something that wasn't consistent with the culture that I had. But it was always done with a sense of honesty and compassion.
Hmm.
And ultimately, for most people, they end up in a better position.
Yep.
But he was that type. I mean, it was just, and then on the toughest big sales calls, he went in and he led the call. And being associated with that as a leader out front, you don't send your people in. He sent me into this little inconsequential bottler to sell a 30% increase. He didn't put me in front of Henry Schimberg at Coca-Cola to talk
Oh
to
yeah,
him about
Yeah.
Welch's and not dropping Welch's.
yeah.
He went in and did it, but he brought me along with it so I could observe, and then we talked about it afterwards. But and then as we went through, he trusted me and I trusted him. He kept bringing me along until he retired.
Love that, D. Love that. That's great. Mike sounds awesome. D, you ready to hit the next question?
I
I
I want
am.
I want to say one
Oh,
more
okay.
thing, about coaching
Yeah.
is I think the tendency is what I've seen is people think, oh, I'm going to coach and develop. They need to go to a training program or whatever. Coaching and developing a person is when they're sitting in the office, your office, or you go to their office and you have a conversation around whatever the issue is or the opportunity is. And it's a discussion so that they learn how you think about things or how you see things. And then more often than not, if you got good people, they'll come in with a different idea that I hadn't thought of.
Right.
But that piece of it is a key developmental tool, and it's not pushing it off to a trainer to go do.
Right.
It's you day to day having those conversations, and it takes time, but it's really important and very effective.
Yeah, brand nerds. I'll say this real quick. These names that Jim is dropping, these are legends. Henry
Yeah.
Schimberg is a beverage industry bottling legend. He
Yeah.
started it was a small group at the time relative to other big Coca-Cola bottlings called Johnston, and then he went on to become president of what was called Coca-Cola Enterprises, which was the biggest bottling organization in the
In the world.
Coca-Cola system. So
Yeah.
Schimberg is Schimberg icon in our business. Icon in our business. All right. You've had a long storied career, Jim, many successes. You're a humble dude, I can tell that. You've mentioned luck several times in your career. But at some point you get all this stuff done because you're really good. This next question has nothing to do with that, however, Mr. Trebilcock. Nothing. Okay. This question has to do with your largest, juiciest, dankest F up. And more importantly, what you learned from it. What was this for you?
Yeah. So it is a subcomponent of my greatest failure, which is our discussion we had on 7 Up, not being
Ah,
able to figure out how to differentiate it.
mm-hmm,
But I joined the company in July of 1987,
mm-hmm,
and we were we were owned by private equity, and we were trying to figure out how to spin the next private equity payout and whatever it was. Getting Hicks and Haas wanted out of the business, and so they were trying to get Prue Bache involved. And there was a product, somebody in the lab, this 80-year-old guy that was still working in the lab had developed this product, and it was caffeinated, and they served it up. We were run separately. There's Dr. Pepper and there's 7 Up, and the two sides really didn't get along at all. And so the CEO at the time, John Albers, who's another legend, served it up as a competition to see who would get the product to take it to market.
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, I was 6 months with the company, 29 years old. I said, I'm in, I'm going for this thing. And I won the competition
Oh, wow. Okay.
because
Okay.
Be
I was
careful what
so,
you
I
wish
took,
for.
so I got this brand, I got this product. It wasn't even a brand at the time.
Right.
And I hadn't even tasted it yet. So we're tasting it, and I'm going, I don't even know what is this? It's cafe. It kind of tastes like a ginger ale, kind of tastes like a 7 Up. And so the decision was made and So this is like in December, and we launched 7 Up Gold April 1st. So 90 days,
Oh,
basically, which was incredibly fast.
oh,
Hmm.
We rolled it out in 3 big meetings across the country with all the bottlers, all the hype. I mean, this was going to be the second coming of Christ. And I mean, it was, and all I had to pull all the people together, all the point of sale people, the supply chain, everything. And I pulled them all together and got this plan put together, and we launched the product, and it bombed. And it bombed because nobody, once they tasted it, nobody knew what the hell it was.
Mm.
And and then it left kind of an aftertaste. But my learnings from this, because it bombed. I mean, we ended up, it was gone before the end of August, right? And that was only because we were trying to fire sale product.
right,
But I learned 2 things from it. One is know when you're being asked to do something and play it at the top. Because the whole reason why we were launching this product wasn't because it was going to be such a huge success. It gave them something to talk to Wall Street about.
oh,
And flip to the next thing, okay? And then, but the other piece that I really learned about it is how you pull together cross-functional teams and inspire them against an impossible goal, like launching a new brand in 90 days.
right,
And my ability to work and push with people, Dr. Pepper at the time was and it was all support people from Dr. Pepper that were in the marketing services area and supply chain. It wasn't 7 Up people. But my
Mhm.
ability to sit down with them, get them on board with what the goal was, work through problems and issues, support them, and ignite, and get it done. It was well done in terms of the launch. It was well done in terms of the packaging and everything else, and they
Mhm.
made their deadlines. But that helped me so much 10 years later when I was running SVP of Marketing Services for Cadbury, and when I became the brand manager and such. So much of good marketing, you have to be able to know all of the details. And like in
Yes.
a DSD environment, you not only have to know your brand stuff, you got to know supply chain, and you got to
Yes.
understand how it's going to impact the bottler, and you got to inspire the people in the route sales meetings,
yep,
all this stuff to your points earlier around getting them to go and execute. Uh, but understanding how you do that and do it successfully, it was a great learning experience. But I don't ever want to do it again.
yeah. That is a great story. And to Branders, by the way, DSD is the acronym for Direct
Oh,
Store Delivery. And
sorry.
so
Yep.
Yep.
the
Yep.
most of all soft drinks and beer are distributed by DSD distributors, whereas most of the other things in the grocery store are in through the
Warehouse.
warehouse. Just so people understand that.
Yep.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Well, wow, what a great answer. We're gonna go to the next question.
Yeah, great stuff, Jim. Okay, so Jim, when thinking about technology, and I know you alluded to the fact that you're a Luddite, but
Yeah.
you also at the same time did some pretty amazing things, as we alluded to in your introduction, on the tech side when digital marketing was becoming really big. So I think you can speak to very, very well on this question. So can you tell us when you're thinking about technology marketing, where you think marketers should lean in or best leverage tech, or you can take us to areas you think that they should be leery or simply avoid.
So I think, it's obviously been a huge impact across the spectrum of business and in particular marketing. I go back to when I became CMO. I mean, Facebook, Google, YouTube, they were still very much in their infancy. It's not that, 15 years ago or whatever, 16 years ago,
Right. They
they were
were.
still in their infancy.
Yep.
I think what I would recommend, and I think it's still applicable today, it's just it's AI and it's
Right.
some of the other things going on out there, but uh, the ability to always be open and learning about the technology, about whether it's crypto or whether it's Bitcoin and AI. Always be learning and be flexible. I think some people, as they think about marketing, they get in and they're wedded to certain things and think that it's changing so fast. And it's only I can remember a curve they showed me that it's going to go like this. Well, it went like this a lot faster than anybody
Right.
realized back in 2005 to 2010. And so when you're in an environment like that, and it's still continuing today, you can't get wedded to a certain thing. I think you have to find partners, I think, that are very good at it, that you can learn from, and then make choices about what you want to have as an expertise inside your brand team or your
Yeah,
marketing
that's big.
organization, right? So we made the decision. I'm going back maybe 10 years ago. And again, having the right people around you, like Springate was really dialed into this stuff far more than I. We had another guy by the name of Robert Stone that was brilliant at it in the digital space. I mean, he lived on his computer at home and all this stuff. And I think having those people around, it's really important. And letting them, what they did for us is they set up these meetings. We'd fly out, we'd take my leadership team out, and we would go around and we would meet with Google, Yahoo at the time, Roku, and the early content creators in LA with no agenda other than to show us new shit.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
and so that we could go back to them and say, okay, well, let us go try that. Let's do this. And we became the guys that were known as the ones that would go in. I mentioned it earlier, beta test, and it worked. And so we became very early on a programmatic buying for media, for instance. And
Yeah.
now what they've done with TikTok and so again, what you said it earlier, DC, about the legacy of college football and whether or not it's sustaining. What I
Yeah.
really like about what happened after I left, or after even I wasn't CMO anymore, Andrew Springate, and I credit him 100% with this, along with his team, took what they were doing in the technology and digital world to a whole nother level, focused on outcomes, focused on content creation and delivery to a consumer to build a connection. And it's part of why the brand is so popular with under 30 age groups,
Mm-hmm.
because they figured out how to do that, do it well, do it authentically. But again, it all starts with learning and getting out and talking with the people who are the experts. I don't know. I mean, there aren't many brand marketers today. I may be wrong, but that are really an expert in AI or a
Not
expert
not many.
programmer,
Not,
right? I
not
mean, it's
many.
like so, but find people that are, and don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I don't understand this shit.
Right.
Help me understand, but I'm never going to be like you. I'm never going to know it. So here's what I need to do. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish for the brand, and then go do it. That to me is the AI today. But the reverse of technology, and I believe this very strongly, is if you rely on technology, and you have to today for a lot of stuff, you better also have the backside of that, which is relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and relationships with the people who know how to do it well, or who are insightful, or partners that know how to execute it very well, or can come to you with new ideas. If you have just the technology and don't have the relationship, you're missing out. And
Mm.
it's going to be short term.
Well,
Love
well
this.
said. Well said. Larry, any more from you? I want to make one
Nope.
quick comment. Okay. Here's the thing, Jim, you said there aren't many marketers who are AI experts. You are exactly right about that fact, I believe. And for those that are at the senior level, because they are at the senior level, they didn't grow up with it.
No.
So you
Yep.
have to go and hire people
Yep.
who know it when you do not entrust them. All right, last question, Jim, and then we move on to the next topic. What are you most proud of?
Well, this is a this was a interesting one too, because I think about it in kind of three three areas. One, first of all, my family. I've been married to my wife 38 years. We
What's your
started
wife's name?
as Janet, and we met on a blind date when I was working for Coke Consolidated in Greensboro. Got
Wow.
married 6 months later and moved to Texas, and we've been down there
Wow.
when I took the job. We have two sons, and they're doing amazingly well, Scott and Zach. And I now have a daughter-in-law and two grandchildren, which they just left us for Thanksgiving. So,
Awesome.
but very, very thankful for them and very proud of who they are and what they're doing. Um, I, you know, when I think about my professional life. Obviously, the college football playoff, that probably, and the work that I put in there, and I talk about relationships, having personal relationships with the each of the commissioners and with ESPN, Ed Earhart, who was the president at the time.
Oh yeah,
I
yes.
leveraged those relationships. Rob Temple was another one that was key to helping us going at ESPN, but um, when it came down, and then I would say it was Tim Spengler and a guy by the name of Chris Magel. We were in the negotiations for the CFP, and Coke was trying to get the CFP. They had
Of
Oh, I'm
course,
sure
of
they
they
course
had
were.
the
we
Home
were.
Depot thing,
Of
and
Yep.
course we
I'm going,
were.
holy shit, we're competing against Coca-Cola. I don't have that kind of money. And we put together the proposal, and it went back and forth. And we approached it from, we're going to invest, we're going to market the college football playoffs for you, ESPN, and for each of the commissioners. We're going to make this thing the biggest sporting event ever. And as a result, you're going to help me with every retailer and every bottler in every town, because everybody's got a local college that they can get behind. And it was so important. I didn't want to lose it either.
Hmm.
Well, I'll never forget it. For us, it was a big nut because it was
Sure.
over $200 million, I think. I had to get board approval.
Oh yeah.
I had to go in front of the board, get board approval. And then at the last minute, Coke went in and they laid down more money
Hmm.
to get it. And I remember having the call. We were in Babe's pork barbecue restaurant parking lot
Oh, you
in
remember the
Frisco,
place?
Texas. Chris Magel and me walking around with the guys at ESPN. His last name was Johnson, and he worked for Ed Earhart, Eric Johnson, EJ, and negotiating. They're saying you're going to have to you got to get on the phone tomorrow and tell them how you're going to market this thing.
Hmm.
So okay. So I did, and then I was told, I'm afraid you lost it. And I walked down to my boss's office and I said, I think I just lost the CFP. And Larry Young, I walked back to my office and I didn't even get in my chair. He had walked down from his office into my office and he looked at me, he says, you don't fucking lose that thing. What is it going to take? And we carved up another couple $1 million. And we came with another marketing idea
Wow.
that ended up being Larry Culpepper. Uh,
Wow.
and it won. And it went all the way up to Iger.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
professionally, that was it. And then, to see it now,
Oh.
and again, this was, mostly my effort at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But with Deutsch and Ryan Lair and then Springate and his team, how they built out the tuition, how they did all that made it really special. That was a team. That wasn't me. That was the team. And they just blew this thing out. The bottlers got behind it. They loved this program. And the bottlers did a great job in executing this thing. And then this is the week. This is the week of the champ games. And they'll be doing the tuition throws on Saturday. It's the best week of the year for the Dr. Pepper marketing team. But that professionally, and then alongside of that is the team I built and the culture that I built. I had an assistant called Ava Spooner, and she was in charge of culture and fun. And we built what we call a caring culture, where for birthdays, all this stuff, but if people were sick or they had something going on with a child or whatever it was, we surrounded them and people stood up and they would help out. And everybody bought it. I mean, it was great. It was one of the
What was she responsible for again?
culture and fun.
Culture and fun. Okay, got it.
And she's a 6 foot tool, 6 foot Venezuelan that has unbounding energy, and everybody loves Ava. But she would, and I called her my Radar O'Reilly because she'd walk in my office and tell me what I was going to ask her. And I'm not kidding. Her nickname was Radar. So,
What was her name again?
Ava Spooner.
Ava Spooner.
Yep.
Awesome.
So, but she was a great immigrant story too. But anyway, and then the last thing I would say accomplishment wise was just some of the nonprofit work I'm doing right now. This group Spoken, which is a Christian organization, they translate the Bible into the local language. And why that's so important is 2/3 of the world only communicate in spoken language. There is no written language. And so when people would go over as missionaries and talk with them, they would talk to them in written language. It never went anywhere. And using technology now, they're using AI to translate the Bible, and then they're able to use cell phones and digital recordings and so on. They started out with MP3 players, but it's a fascinating group, and it's more than just Bible translation, because what you find is when you communicate with people, that's the great brand lesson. When you communicate with people in their own language, or when you really connect with them, it opens up their whole world. And it brings their community together. They treat people differently. It's pretty remarkable.
Deep stuff, D. Jim is amazing. It's
Very
awesome.
fortunate to be on that board. But anyway,
Awesome stuff.
We're fortunate to have you on this podcast right
Yes.
now. Very fortunate.
We ready to hit the next segment?
Let's do it.
All right. So DC, Jim, what's popping?
What's popping?
So Jim, this is our chance to shout out, shout down, or simply air something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion. And you started to tell us, and we said no, because your first few words was already interesting. So
all right. Well,
so hit us up with it.
All right. So read a lot of articles, probably starting back about 4 years ago, about how CMOs are becoming irrelevant. And there are companies that are no longer having CMOs. And I think that's a bit self-inflicted, and I'll tell you why. But I also think for companies, it's the dumbest thing that they could ever do. And I feel very strongly about this. So in my world where I grew up, and going back to General Mills days, and certainly it didn't hurt to have that bottling experience and being in the selling function and so on. I think the CMO needs to be more than a consumer expert. They have to be the person that can talk to the supply chain because whatever idea they come up with, they have to be able to influence and affect the supply chain. They have to do the same with HR. They have to do the same thing, certainly with the selling organization. And I find too many CMOs today, and this is why I say it's self-inflicted, they're focused on the bright, shiny stuff, kind of the consumer led, the advertising, the CFP maybe kind of stuff,
Yep.
rather than taking the opportunity, because the consumer, the person who's actually buying the product, better than anybody in the company what it's going to take to be successful
Mhm.
when it ultimately gets in the hands of to get it into the hands of the consumer. You have, I mean, and I think today a lot of CMOs, either structurally or just because they don't like that stuff, have abdicated a seat at the table to have those conversations with people to push sales. I mean, I made our people, our brand marketers, go out for a week and spend it on a bottler route
Mm.
and in the plant to
Mhm.
understand, what we were talking about being a bottler, a bottle sorter.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I require them to go out and I encourage them to go out and visit with the field sales any chance they could and ride with them and talk to them and find out what was going on there, what was working, what wasn't working. And the same thing with key accounts. I wanted to be on the Walmart call or on the Kroger call. And it worked well when I was commercial officer because I had both marketing and national account sales. I forced it to happen and it
Right.
worked very, very well. But I just think that it's a bit self-inflicted, but companies that are discounting marketing right now, we're one of the main reasons, and we can tell better now with the measurement than ever before about driving top line and
Yep.
bottom line and the effectiveness of what we go do. And I just think it's very short-sighted. And I think it's really a bad conversation going on there about eliminating the CMO role.
Ooh.
Larry?
I mean, Jim just stated it so well. I agree with Jim about it being self-inflicted too, and I do believe that brand nerds, what Jim is alluding to, if you're just a marketing person, you say, "Hey, I do whether you're B2B or B2C, and I do my job really well, and I'm just going to stay in that silo." That means you're not doing your job well. You really need to understand all the different facets of the company that you're working in, and
It's
really
a
the definition of
general manager mindset.
exactly, exactly. The definition of marketing too is it goes back to the funnel, but people forget the full funnel. It goes from awareness to
Yeah.
actually the purchase and repurchase of your brand. And so there's so many others involved in all of that. And if you don't have a good handle and good relationships with the people who touch all of the levels of that funnel, you're in trouble.
Yep.
I concur,
100%.
Larry. Jim, I'm glad you have spoken truth to power, and that is there are many who are very powerful in our discipline, marketing, who need to hear that some of the issues that are happening with our discipline are self-inflicted.
Yep.
They're not all external. Some of them we are doing. Jim, Larry, and I often say inside of our business and to our clients that marketing is both art and science. And the best marketers know how to balance both. You
Yep.
mentioned CFP and how folks may look at that, all of the glamour and glitz around CFP. What you all did from a campaign perspective, that was artful. However, putting in the hands of bottlers a set of assets and tools that they could use to put alongside of a rightly faced 12-ounce can, 20-ounce
Yep.
bottle, 2-liter bottle, that is what caused Dr. Pepper to vault from where you all were, climbing all the way up to now being number 2. It
Yep.
wasn't just a very important, very meaningful scholarship throwing of the football on national TV. It was the fact that the very thing you're looking at, a can with a hole on it and a goalpost, was on every fucking display in the country.
That's right.
That's why. Okay,
Yep.
CFP and Dr. Pepper did what did. Now let me go. So that's art and science.
Yeah.
Art, campaign, science, and execution. We've talked about Obey Your Thirst and Sprite. The
Same thing.
sexiness was in all of what happened on the TV and in social media later on in social media. What really happened was the NBA as a tool, just like college football,
Yeah.
was given to the bottlers, and every place that you went, you saw a promotion around the National Basketball
Yeah.
League, the
Yeah.
Basketball Association. This is science. If you have one without the other, you're not
Yeah.
going to win. And I
Right.
agree with you, Jim and Larry. Sometimes we get seduced by the sexiness and not enough seduced by the sales of it all.
Yeah. Just another kind of pet peeve of mine right now, and I call it the LinkedIn factor. There's a lot of CMOs that will go on LinkedIn and self-promote these
Oh,
great
yeah.
ideas. And then when you look at their business, it's in the shitter.
Yeah.
It's like, what? We used to have because we were competing against Coke and Pepsi, two of the best marketers in the world, we used to have a philosophy of when we were hitting a home run and we were doing things right, we close the door and laugh our ass off. There's a humility that is lacking in the marketer today
Yeah. Yeah.
that causes you to keep learning, that it's not about me, it's about the team, and it's about the brand and the brand experience with the consumer. And I think all this stuff ladders up, and works against the marketer. But I'm all about being a humble marketer and being damn good at it, and then enjoying the success.
Yeah, we're with you on that, Jim. DC and I always say it's all about the business. Do what's best for the business. That's our guiding light and guiding principle. But just to close the loop before we finish this conversation and before we get to learnings, I want to say something too. It is self-inflicted, a lot of what you said, but brand nerds also, when you're in organizations, DC and I were very lucky because Coca-Cola, Jim, and you know this, having worked at Coca-Cola in the bottling system, everyone who touches Coca-Cola knows it's a marketing-driven company. The marketing rules the day. There's very few companies that are marketing-driven. And so if you're in a company, and a lot of folks in the tech world, are sales-driven and or finance-driven, if your CEO is a finance person, you better figure out how you can speak to she or he in their language to make marketing most relevant for what matters most to them. So that you're not in a situation where marketing is being poo-pooed. You've got to manage that far up and be ahead of the game as it relates to that. So that's my little soliloquy on the other part that's not self-inflicted, is to be more proactive.
It's critical. And I throw the CFO in there as well.
Yes,
it's just, it's absolutely critical that you meet them where they're at and help them, your board as well. If you're a public company, being able to get them on board with what you're doing.
A huge point. All right, D, anything else to add before we hit to the close?
Not a thing.
Jim, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation. This has been so much fun. And what happens when we have such a fun conversation, it feels like we were talking for 10 minutes and here we are at the show close. So I'm going to posit my learnings. DC will do the same. And then if you could hit us with a quick learning that you had from this conversation, that would be great. I have a ton, so I'm going to start. I'm going to go as quick as I can. So number one, this starts everything when you meet Jim Trebilcock. Relationships, relationships, relationships. That's number one. And by the way, with smart people who are experts in what you don't know, which are essential to marketing success. And this includes getting a great culture person like Abba Spooner, his Radar O'Reilly. So that's number one. Number two, Jim said this numerous times. When you're in position to hire others, Hire people who are smarter than you and know things you don't. It'll actually help you seem smarter too. Some people don't see that, but it actually does do that. That's number two. Three, think of the groundwork and all the work that Jim and his team did to the last minute when they were told in the college football playoff that they lost it. They still managed to scrape a few dollars and actually get the win. And think of the fruits of that work that continue to this day and, dare I say, for many years to come. That's incredible. Number four, sometimes the best moves you make are the ones that you don't like. When Jim actually didn't get hired to be CMO and he hung in there and he eventually became the CMO. So sometimes you need best to be patient. That's number four. Number five, when you come upon a great brand positioning, like Jim said that DC and his team did with Sprite, stay consistent and execute. Number six, BOB, bland, old, and boring. Don't be that. But do what Coke did with Hilltop. If you read the room of the world, the context that you're in, and figure out how your brand can be genuinely culturally relevant, that's huge. Number seven, be honest and compassionate when letting someone go. And number eight, coaching and developing foundation is actually the day-to-day conversation you should have with those that are working with you. It's not about, as Jim said, sending them to some counselor. You need to be doing that work every day. I've got two more. Number nine, dare we say that leading cross-transformational teams is a huge part of your success as a marketer, and you need to be able to influence and cajole all the different people and all the different roles in the company. And number 10, no matter what the latest tech is, always be open to learning and be flexible. Those are mine.
Those are fantastic, Larry.
Wow.
Jim, you're a deep brother.
You are.
Jim, we've heard about you from Tim, not just in the context of this podcast, but Tim Spangler, Brand Nerds, has talked about you several times in different conversations that we've had. Larry and I have been looking forward to this chat with you. You have, in my opinion, exceeded what were already very high expectations that we had in this conversation for you.
Totally agree.
You're welcome. At this juncture of the program, Jim, I make a valiant attempt. And the attempt that I make, Jim, is looking at the person before me and listening to them drop jewels. I ask myself, what is it that this gifted human that I'm looking at before me and that I have the joy of listening to? What have they offered and what are they offering the world that if they don't do it, we're not going to get it in the same way? It is theirs and uniquely theirs to offer us. And this one was hard for me, Jim. You were hard for me because there's so much to pick from with you, brother. You are you have the depth of an ocean and the smoothness of a pond. It's uncanny, but I'm going to make an attempt, though. I'm going to make an attempt, Jim. Here we go. First up, Jim, you talked about 7-Up and how you didn't like the way that it went down. And you also gave the answer on the biggest F-up on 7-Up Gold and how that just did not work. I had to say, by the way, Dr. Pepper now is the number 2 non-alcoholic beverage based on share, Brand Nerds, in this country, based on share. Brand Nerds, from 1985 to 1995, had Jim walked into anyone's office and said, Dr. Pepper is going to be bigger than Pepsi, they would have put Jim in a straitjacket, and rolled him out in the street quickly. This was unfathomable, Brand Nerds, yet it happened based on the leadership of Jim and others. That's number one. Number two, as you talked about the college football program and playoffs that you've done. This is, as I mentioned up front, brand nerds, this is one of the best, if not the best, example of property and brand that I have ever seen. And I think what Sprite did with the NBA when we were a partner with them was fairly goddamn good. But
Really
not
good.
as good as Dr. Pepper and college football. Yet, brand nerds and Jim, when we talk about it, you quickly pivot to, listen, Andrew Springate and Ryan Lair, what they did with it, and Robert Stone and what he did, how they continued it. You quickly got it off of yourself and gave credit, due credit, to Andrew, Ryan, and Robert, and many others, Number 3, the story about Coke coming in at the last 11th hour, which Coke is known to do. You guys are known to do that too, and so is Pepsi. We're all guilty of it, trying to get a very sexy asset to market. Yep. But in this case, you guys, you were doing your thing. You met with the conference folks, the schools, the network, all of these different constituents. And you have the meeting to talk about, all right, this is what we're going to do with it. And then you go, I lost it. Now, brand nerds, he kind of glossed over this part of the story. He didn't say when he lost it. Who was your boss's name? What was his name at the time?
Larry Young.
Larry, okay. He didn't say, hey, Larry, someone else lost it. He didn't say, hey, Larry, we lost it. He didn't say, Larry, I lost it, but this happened and that happened. He said, I lost it. And then he walked out. He had not sat down yet. Larry followed him to his office, brand nerds, followed him, would not let Jim take the time to put his derriere in his seat. And Larry said to him, you're not going to lose this. That's not going to happen. So they cobbled together a couple more shekels, denarius, and they went and got it. Brand nerds, it would have been easy for Jim to say, hey, you know what? That dude, Tim Spangler, he let Coke come in and get it from me. That's what that guy did. He should have told me to begin with. He didn't do that. He stood tall. He took his medicine and said, I lost it, without blaming anybody else. And then I thought I was done after that. I really did. I thought, okay, well, this is it. Then, Jim, when we got to the what's poppin' and you talked about what we marketers are doing sometimes, focusing so much on the sexy but not enough on the sales. And then you talked about these LinkedIn marketing folks who are going, they crow about what they've done. They talk about all their words, yet their business is in, and I quote, the shitter. Okay, their business is in the shitter. And then you talked, Jim, about how you all, the way you and your team did it, if you had a win, you would go into your office, close the door, and laugh. In the Coca-Cola world, Jim, what Larry and I were taught was celebrate quickly and move the fuck on. Okay, this is what we were taught. To this day, Jim, my daughter, who leads the marketing of our podcast, she's on here. You've met her, I think. She has the toughest time trying to get Larry and I to talk about ourselves and what we've accomplished in social media. We just aren't comfortable doing that, Jim. And we actually have statistics. Yeah. We've actually built multiple billion-dollar businesses and brands with other people. You described yourself. You said, hey, I'm just a humble marketer. That's what you said. Before you said that, I said to myself, what is this guy? What is he giving that no one else can give in the way he gives it? This is before you said that. I described you and I wrote it down, the humble warrior of marketing. The humble warrior of marketing. And I want to talk to you now, Jim, about the attributes of a humble warrior that I have seen not only through this interview, but I dare say your life. 10 things, Jim. Unshakable self-awareness. You know who you are, and you know who you ain't. Quiet confidence, not loud ego. Disciplined resolve, servant leadership mindset. This is why you are doing what you are doing in the oral descriptions of the Bible. This is why you're doing this in a nonprofit. Radical curiosity, integrity as a non negotiable, emotional mastery, vision without vanity, strategic courage, and consistency of character.
Wow.
That's you, Jim. So first, I'm going to ask you your reaction to that, and then I've got a question.
Well, I'm not used to listening to someone talking to me about those attributes. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm very humbled by that. Um, you're very generous, I think. Certainly all those things are not perfect that I've done, but I would say largely those are kind of the values that I was taught. My mother taught me the golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. And my father always told me, and he was a tremendous trial lawyer in Lansing. I mean, he went to Michigan, by the way, not Michigan State, but he was and his name is still on the firm in Lansing. But he told me when I was a paper boy, he said, do more than what's expected, and do more than what's expected, and be humble about
Love that.
it. And those things have been kind of guiding principles. So I would say, that if the people that have worked with me have taken anything away from the experience of being on our team, I hope that those are some of the attributes that they walk away with. And, many of them are leading in other organizations right now. The reason why I like Andrew Springate, and there's others, there's Jack Sealt, there's Cindy Horrigan, Kelly Freeman, there's a bunch of them. Derek Dabrowski's still there. We had a philosophy of hiring really smart people who are good souls.
Yeah.
And it
Mm.
it it works. I don't want to work with somebody who's an asshole.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want somebody who's just a good person. And we were able to do that. Springate is, great example of that.
All right, Jim. I'm going to ask you a question that I have not asked one of our guests, and we've done approaching 200 of these podcasts. And I am also going to answer the question after you answer it. What is your favorite Bible verse and why?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a good one. I would have to say, man, I may have to pull out my Bible here, but in John, I am the light of the world.
Mm.
Come unto me, and I'll have to get it for you, but
That's all right.
it's
That's all right. That's all right.
it's about finding light in your life and in the world, and that light is Jesus, and firmly believing that He is my Lord and Savior, and and there's a verse in Romans 2 about what grace is defined as, and it's about God's compassion for you, patience with you for screwing up all the time, and His enduring love for you. He's going to pursue you throughout your life. And if we could all do that, it would be a much better place.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. So that you've answered my question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
That's
all right.
that's all right. That's John 8:12.
There you go.
That's John 8:12.
Thank you.
Mine is Romans 8:28. And what it says, paraphrasing, is that not everything that happens to us is good, because lots of stuff that happens to us as humans is bad.
Yeah.
But everything that happens to us can be turned into good, can be used for good
Yeah.
for those that love God and believe. That's
Romans. I've been reading Romans, and that is it's just a phenomenal book in the Bible.
yeah.
Kind of a guide path for everyone.
Yes. And by the way, mine is Romans 8:28. Your second one is Romans 8:38 and 39.
There you go.
Yeah, it's
There you
Romans
go.
8:38 and 39. All right, brand nerds. I didn't mean to make this thing all biblical and spiritual, but I just felt like I needed to ask you that. So thank you for that, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
All right. So Jim, the last question before we hit the outro is what if anything have you learned from this wonderful conversation we've had?
That folks at Coca-Cola and marketing aren't all that bad.
Yeah.
They're good people, right? First and foremost. But I think what I took away is marketing is it's a very special profession. I think being able to understand people, build relationships, it's not, I haven't spent a lot of time going over all these things over the last 30 some odd years, but it's remarkable. It has led to a remarkable personal experience, but I've met so many good people through it and through that experience. And, I haven't talked about a lot of these people in a while, and it really makes me pretty emotional. I love the fact that God blessed me and put me in this role. And I got into the role after at Coke Consolidated, back when they weren't doing so well, when the FBI was going through my office, because I had replaced a guy that had just been indicted for price fixing. You can look at in Roanoke, and go from that, the FBI, to a job and getting married and having a family in Texas, and the experiences that I've had, I'm very grateful.
That's a great mic drop. And the people person that you are, and the humble guy that you are, that's awesome. So brand nerds, we have hit the end here. Thanks so much for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers of Brands, Beats, and Bytes are Jeff Shirley, Daryl D.C. Cobbin, Larry Taman, Haley Cobbin, Jay Tate, and Tom Dioro. That is he. And if you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share it. For those on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.